The verdant province of Munster in southwestern Ireland was once the domain of two powerful families, the Butlers of Ormond and the Fitzgeralds of Desmond. These families, of Norman origin, had established themselves as major players in Irish politics and society. The Butlers, with their stronghold at Kilkenny Castle, held the title of Earls of Ormond. They were staunch supporters of the English crown and its policies in Ireland. The Fitzgeralds, based at Askeaton Castle in County Limerick, were Earls of Desmond. They held significant sway over vast territories and commanded the loyalty of many Gaelic Irish clans. The Butlers and Fitzgeralds were more than just noble families. They were powerful lords, wielding significant influence within their respective spheres. Their rivalry, deeply rooted in ambition and land ownership, would have a devastating impact on the landscape and people of Munster. This bitter feud, fueled by generations of animosity and intrigue, escalated into a brutal conflict in the late 16th century. It left a scar on the region's history, remembered for its brutality and the tragic consequences for ordinary people caught in the crossfire. The seeds of the Butler-Fitzgerald rivalry were sown centuries before the scorched-earth warfare of the 16th century. Both families, descended from Norman adventurers who arrived in Ireland during the 12th century, quickly amassed land and power. This inevitably led to competition and conflict. Disputes over territory, titles, and influence poisoned relations between the two houses. Each sought to outmaneuver the other, currying favour with the English crown while consolidating their power within Ireland. One of the earliest recorded clashes occurred in 1310 at the Battle of Kenilworth. Here, Edmund Butler, Earl of Carrick, defeated and killed John Fitzgerald, 1st Earl of Desmond. This event cemented the animosity between the two families. Over the next 2 centuries, their rivalry continued to simmer, occasionally erupting into open conflict. Marriages were strategically arranged, alliances forged and broken, all in pursuit of dominance within the volatile world of Gaelic Ireland. The rivalry was as much about cultural identity as it was about land and power. The smouldering resentment between the Butlers and Fitzgeralds ignited with the outbreak of the Desmond rebellions, from 1569 to 1583. These uprisings, led by Gerald Fitzgerald, 15th Earl of Desmond, were a direct challenge to English authority in Ireland. The Fitzgeralds, along with other Gaelic Irish lords, opposed the imposition of English law and the expansion of the Crown's control over their ancestral lands. The rebellion provided a bloody backdrop for the Butler-Fitzgerald feud to play out with renewed ferocity. The Butlers, loyal to the English crown, saw an opportunity to crush their rivals and increase their own standing. Thomas Butler, 10th Earl of Ormond, led the crown's forces against the Desmond rebels. He waged a ruthless campaign, exploiting the rebellion to settle old scores and expand his family's holdings. The conflict took on a personal dimension, with both sides committing atrocities in the name of victory. What began as a rebellion against English rule became a bloody internecine war, with the Butler-Fitzgerald feud at its heart. As the Desmond rebellions raged, both the Butlers and Fitzgeralds resorted to increasingly desperate measures. One such tactic, as brutal as it was effective, was the use of scorched-earth warfare. This involved the systematic destruction of crops, livestock, and anything else that could sustain the enemy. The goal was to starve the opposing forces into submission by depriving them of resources and shelter. It was a cruel tactic that targeted the very foundation of life in Munster. The fertile fields of Munster were transformed into desolate wastelands. Crops were burned, cattle slaughtered, and homes razed to the ground. The once vibrant countryside became eerily silent, devoid of the sounds of life. This deliberate destruction of food sources had a devastating impact on the civilian population. It created a man-made famine that would have far-reaching consequences. The scorched-earth policy, employed by both sides in the conflict, magnified the horrors of war and unleashed unimaginable suffering upon innocent people. Famine's grip death-stalks Munster. The scorched-earth tactics employed during the Desmond rebellions had a catastrophic impact on the civilian population of Munster. With their fields destroyed and livestock slaughtered, the people faced starvation on a massive scale. Famine tightened its grip on the province. The elderly and the very young were the most vulnerable, succumbing to hunger and disease. Harrowing accounts from the time describe scenes of unimaginable suffering, with people reduced to eating grass and roots in a desperate attempt to survive. Contemporary estimates suggest that up to 30,000 people perished in the famine that followed the Desmond rebellions. The exact number remains uncertain, but the scale of the tragedy is undeniable. The once fertile province of Munster was scarred by death and depopulation. The famine's impact extended far beyond the immediate loss of life. It shattered communities, leaving lasting psychological scars on the survivors. The legacy of hunger and hardship would haunt the region for generations. The price of rebellion, devastation, and its aftermath. The Desmond rebellions and the scorched-earth tactics they engendered left Munster a devastated land. The once proud towns and villages lay in ruins, their inhabitants either dead or dispersed. The economic and social fabric of the province was shattered. The war, coupled with the famine, resulted in a dramatic decline in population. Some estimates suggest that Munster lost up to two-thirds of its people during this period. The rebellion's defeat had significant political ramifications as well. The Fitzgeralds of Desmond, once one of the most powerful families in Ireland, were utterly crushed. Their lands were confiscated by the Crown and redistributed to English colonists. This marked a turning point in Irish history, signalling the end of Gaelic autonomy in Munster and paving the way for increased English control over Ireland. The Butlers, though victorious, also emerged from the conflict weakened. Their reputation tarnished by the brutality of the war, they found themselves increasingly at odds with the English administration they had served. Shifting sands, the end of an era for Gaelic Ireland. The brutal conflict in Munster marked a turning point in Irish history. The defeat of the Desmond Fitzgeralds and the subsequent plantation of Munster with English colonists signalled the beginning of the end for the old Gaelic order. The ancient ways of life, rooted in clan loyalty and Brecon law, were gradually eroded as English customs and institutions took hold. The landscape of Ireland, once dominated by powerful Gaelic families like the Butlers and Fitzgeralds, was irrevocably altered. The Munster Wars served as a stark warning to other Gaelic lords who might challenge English authority. The Crown, determined to consolidate its control over Ireland, adopted increasingly aggressive policies to subjugate the native population. This led to further uprisings and rebellions, each one met with greater force by the English. The dream of an independent Gaelic Ireland, once a flickering flame, was slowly extinguished under the weight of English conquest. Echoes of the past. Remembering the Munster Wars. The echoes of the Munster Wars reverberated through Irish history, shaping the island's destiny and leaving an indelible mark on its people's collective memory. The conflict became a potent symbol of English oppression and the resilience of the Irish spirit in the face of adversity. The names of those who fought and died were etched into the annals of history. The scorched-earth tactics employed during the war became synonymous with brutality and inhumanity. They served as a stark reminder of the human cost of conflict and the devastating impact it can have on civilian populations. The memory of those who perished from famine and violence served as a cautionary tale, a reminder of the fragility of peace and the importance of understanding the complexities of the past. Legacy of loss. The feud's enduring impact. The Butler-Fitzgerald feud, played out against the backdrop of the Desmond rebellions, left an enduring legacy on Munster and Ireland as a whole. The conflict transformed the political and social landscape of the region, contributing to the decline of Gaelic power and paving the way for increased English control. The scorched-earth tactics employed by both sides resulted in widespread famine and depopulation, leaving a scar on the land and its people that would take generations to heal. Yet even amidst the destruction and loss, the spirit of the Irish people endured. The memory of the Munster Wars, passed down through generations, became a source of both sorrow and pride. It served as a reminder of the importance of unity, resilience, and the preservation of Irish culture and identity in the face of adversity. The legacy of the Butler-Fitzgerald feud, though rooted in conflict and tragedy, ultimately speaks to the enduring strength and spirit of the Irish people.